So I understand why you feel this way, and I think that the reason why is that besides Baron, the humans aren't really they're in the story, but they don't really connect to the main Silmarill's plot. Like that's just not a thing that's happening. And it just goes to show that the First Age was not really a time for men. It was just they just need to wake up and get their bearings. That's their job in the that's their job in the First Age. Their time comes later with the Third Age and with kind of taking over what the elves are leaving behind. Sadly, waiting their turn and waiting for their time is not something that the race of men is very good at doing if the fall of Numenor is to be believed in any way, shape, or form. The fall of Numenor really happens because men don't really understand their place in Eru Ilúvatar's designs, and they want what the elves have, not realizing that what they have is equally special. And they try to invade Valinor, and they pay for it. But it just goes to show that, like, just the reason why the men and the humans on their own might be a little bit boring is because they're not really connecting to the main story of the Silmarillion at large, because it's not their time yet. Like, they gotta wait their turn. That being said, I do think that the humans that we do hear about in the Silmarillion in the First Age, they are pretty cool, and I would like to tell you about some of them off the top of my head. So there are three main houses of men that kind of serve the good guys. They kind of like enter into the service of different elves. There are others that kind of do their own thing and they kind of do bad things, but they don't really come into the story as named characters that much. So the first house is the house of Haleth, and she takes over from her father because she is the eldest born, and she takes up the mantle when her father dies, I think during the Dagor Bragolouth, I think. I didn't pronounce that correctly. Big battle, dad died, she takes over. Most notably, this is the girl who has the meeting with Caranthir that we only hear about. They meet once, they have a meeting, they come to an agreement, and they never speak to each other again, and that has launched 1,000 fanfics, apparently. Next is the house of Hador, and this is where the fathers of the main human heroes that are not Beren come from. This is the house of Horenthalion and Huor. Huor, that's actually like his name. And then Huor is the father of Tuor, who is the father of Arendil, who is Elrond's father. So this is a major point of Elrond's heritage right here. And then Horenthalion, he marries Morwen of, we'll get to that. And then he is the father of Turin Turambar and Nienor Niniel, which is the whole story of the children of Horin, and that is a whole other monster for a whole other day. And that brings us to the house of Beor, and this is where Beren is from. This is where Turin Turambar, I think, takes the most of his appearance. I think people associate him more with the house of Beor than the house of Hador, which is a whole other thing. But most of the thing you need to know about these houses is that they contribute to the heritage of the humans that come after them. As an example, this is an adorable lineage chart showing how Elrond's heritage has been affected by the smorgasbord of DNA that has come to create him. And that's Tuor, that green gummy bear that I mentioned. That is the son of Huor, who is the part of the house of Hador. And then he marries an elf. This is the other major elf-human marriage that is relevant to the story, besides Beren and Luthien, who are also here. And then we get to the point where the half-elves start marrying each other, and at that point, the Valar is like, okay, like, we need to come up with a situation for these children of fate, so to speak. Anyway, I totally get why you might find these guys boring. Like, these stories of the humans that are just trying to settle and trying to make their way is different from, like, you know, Beren cutting, like, a jewel out of a god's crown, you know? Like, I completely understand it. But at the same time, though, these stories are pretty cool, and they do contribute to the landscape of the Silmarillion and to Beleriand and Middle-earth eventually. So, like, it is worth kind of knowing about them. And also, the fact that you named your dog Beren is adorable. Please send a picture.